Which Japanese watch brand has the best build quality? That's what we're going to find out today. We're going to rank every major Japanese watch brand from worst to best. And by the end of this video, you'll have a clear picture of exactly where each one stands. So let's start with the brand that most people probably wouldn't expect to see at the bottom of a Japanese watch ranking, and that's Casio. Now, before you click away, let me be clear. This is not about Casio making bad products. Casio makes exceptional products. The G-Shock is one of the most iconic, indestructible watches ever created. But when we talk about pure build quality and manufacturing craft, Casio operates on a completely different philosophy than the others on this list. The majority of Casio's watches, including most G-Shock models, are assembled in Thailand or China, with general components sourced from those same facilities. The engineering is Japanese, yes. The design is Japanese, but the hands-on manufacturing is largely not, and that matters when we're scoring build quality specifically. Now, there's an important exception inside the Casio family, and that's the premium G-Shock line, the MRG series specifically. These watches are hand-assembled at Yamagata Casio, the brand's so-called mother factory, tucked into the mountains of northern Japan. At Yamagata, a special team of elite technicians called Meisters, a title that takes years of internal exams to earn, assemble each MRG piece on what Casio internally calls the G line, a production path shaped literally like the letter G. The attention to detail here is genuinely impressive. So if you're looking at an MRG, you're looking at a very different level of Casio. But for the standard lineup, Casio lands at the bottom of this ranking. It's still a solid brand. It's just not competing on the same craftsmanship terms as what comes next. Moving up the tier list, we come to Orient. And this is where things start getting genuinely interesting. Orient is a brand that most people outside the serious watch community underestimate, sometimes dramatically. Here's the fact that tends to surprise people. Orient produces 100% in-house automatic movements. Every gear, every spring, every rotor, designed and manufactured within the brand itself. At the price points Orient operates at, that is extraordinarily rare. Most brands in the under $300 space rely on externally purchased movements from suppliers. Orient doesn't. They do it themselves. The Orient Komatsu, for example, gives you an in-house automatic movement, sapphire crystal, and 200 meters of water resistance for around $200 to $300. Try finding that from any other brand at that price. You won't. Orient has been doing this since 1950, and even after being acquired by Seiko in 2009, it has continued operating with its own movement designs and its own identity. The build quality on Orient's watches is honest and consistent. It's not flashy. The finishing isn't going to blow your mind. You're not going to see razor-sharp, mirror-polished surfaces that look like they were carved by hand. But what you do get is solid, reliable, well-engineered watchmaking at a price that democratizes mechanical horology. Orient belongs squarely in the mid-tier of this ranking. Underrated? Absolutely. But there's a gap between here and the next level up. That next level is Citizen. And Citizen is a fascinating case because the brand operates across two very distinct identities. On one side, you have the mainstream Citizen lineup, competent, well-made, reliable, with solid quartz engineering, and the brand's signature EcoDrive technology, which turns any light source into power, and has now been doing so for 50 years, as of 2026. EcoDrive is a genuinely brilliant piece of engineering. Citizen's Miyota subsidiary, which manufactures movements used in watches worldwide, produces almost all of its calibers entirely in Japan, using all metal components for durability and repairability. That's a meaningful commitment. The engineering quality is real, but Citizen also assembles many of its mid-range models in China and Thailand, which introduces some inconsistency at the finishing level compared to purely Japan-built competitors. The higher-end Citizen lines, like the Citizen and EcoDrive 1, are assembled in Japan with strict inspection standards that genuinely show in the end product. So, Citizen is a brand where the tier you buy into matters. At the top of their lineup, the quality is excellent. Across the full range, it's good, sometimes very good, but not always the most consistent story. That puts Citizen solidly above Orient, but with some asterisks attached. Now we reach Seiko, and this is the brand where the conversation changes entirely, because Seiko is not just one brand. It is an entire ecosystem of watchmaking. Seiko was founded in 1881. They introduced the world's first quartz wristwatch in 1969, an event so disruptive to Swiss watchmakers that it became known simply as the Quartz Crisis. And if the Quartz Revolution wasn't enough, Seiko's engineers spent 28 years and built over 600 prototypes to develop the spring drive movement, a mechanism that uses a traditional mainspring for energy, but governs its accuracy with a quartz oscillator and an integrated circuit chip, achieving 1 second per day precision. That development process began in 1977 and culminated in the Spring Drive's commercial release in 1999. It is one of the most ambitious, stubborn, genuinely obsessive acts of engineering in the history of watchmaking. Seiko manufactures an enormous range of watches, and the honest truth is that the build quality varies significantly depending on where you are in their lineup. The entry-level Seiko 5 uses Hardlex crystal, a proprietary mineral glass that's more shatter-resistant than sapphire, but scratches faster. Bracelets at the lower end have hollow end links that feel noticeably less premium than the cases they're attached to. These are real compromises. But climb into the presage and prospects territory, and the picture changes considerably. Sapphire crystal becomes standard, finishing improves, the engineering tightens, and at the very top of the Seiko family sits a brand that operates on an entirely different plane. That brand is Grand Seiko, and Grand Seiko deserves its own conversation, because what they do is not just good watchmaking, it is watchmaking as a philosophy. Grand Seiko was first introduced in 1960 as the best watch that Seiko could possibly make. It was Japan's best-kept horological secret for decades, not exported outside the country until 2010. And when the watch world finally got a proper look at what Grand Seiko had been quietly building all that time, the reaction was something close to shock. The finishing on a Grand Seiko case is unlike anything else at its price point. The technique responsible is called Zaratsu polishing, a name derived from the German Salaz polishing machines that Seiko imported in the 1950s. But what Seiko did with those machines is entirely their own. Rather than polishing with the side of a rotating wheel, the way most manufacturers do, Zaratsu uses the flat front surface of the wheel. This creates perfectly flat planes that meet each other at edges so crisp, so precise, that they catch light and scatter it like a prism. Grand Seiko calls it the sparkle of quality. It takes artisans months to develop the intuitive feel needed to master the technique. And unlike Swiss houses that occasionally deploy similar methods on limited editions, Grand Seiko applies Zaratsu polishing across its entire lineup, on every reference as a baseline standard. The dials are where it gets almost impossible to describe without simply showing them to someone. Grand Seiko's dial artisans work at a studio called Shizukuishi in Iwate Prefecture, and their designs are drawn directly from the natural world surrounding them. The snowflake dial, one of the most celebrated watch dials in the world, was inspired by the specific texture of snow as it falls on Mount Iwate, visible from the studio windows. The seasonal dials, the textured surfaces, the lacquer work, all of it comes from the same place. Not a mood board, not a design brief, the literal view outside the window of the people making the watch. And then there's the Spring Drive. In 2025, Grand Seiko pushed their Spring Drive technology to a new milestone with the Caliber 9 RB2, achieving an accuracy of plus or minus 20 seconds per year, not per day, per year. To put that in context, a COSC certified watch, the standard that Swiss manufacturers advertise, must achieve plus 6 to minus 4 seconds per day. Grand Seiko's Spring Drive is operating at a completely different level of precision. The hands of a Spring Drive watch don't tick, they don't jump, they glide, a smooth, continuous motion caused by the absence of the traditional escapement mechanism. It's mesmerizing to watch, and it's deeply strange in the best possible way. So where does that leave us? At the top of this ranking, Grand Seiko sits alone. Not because the other brands are bad, they're not. Japan as a whole produces more reliable, more consistent, more thoughtfully engineered watches than almost anywhere else on Earth. Casio's MRG is a masterclass in shock resistance and durability. Orient punches dramatically above its price. Citizen has built half a century of solar-powered engineering that the rest of the industry still hasn't matched. And Seiko, across its vast and varied lineup, continues to do things that no other brand in the world does. But Grand Seiko is the answer to a different question. Not, how do we make reliable watches efficiently, but what is the most beautiful, most precise, most fully realized watch that human hands can make? The answer to that question has been slowly, quietly, stubbornly built in the mountains of Japan for more than 60 years, and it's still going. If you found this useful and want more content like this, make sure to subscribe to the channel, click the next video on your screen for another interesting breakdown on watches.